the bomb that changed everything. Imagine a world where a single weapon can erase an entire city in seconds, where the temperature reaches 7,000 degrees Celsius, hotter than the surface of the sun, and where the mere idea of such destruction keeps the world on the brink of annihilation for decades, for August 6th and 9th, 1945. Two Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, were vaporized by atomic bombs. Over 200,000 people died, and the world entered the atomic age. But what if those bombs had never been dropped? What if President Truman had chosen invasion instead? How many more would have died, and would the world today be safer or far more dangerous? This is the story of the two bombs that ended World War II and forced humanity to live under the shadow of nuclear annihilation. Let's explore what happened and what could have been if history had taken a different turn. The Manhattan Project racing against time. By 1945, World War II had killed over 60 million people. Nazi Germany had surrendered, but Japan refused to give up. Despite devastating losses, the Japanese military vowed to fight to the last person American leaders faced. A terrifying question. How do we end this war? The answer came from science. In 1939, Albert Einstein warned President Roosevelt that Nazi Germany might be developing an atomic bomb. Roosevelt authorized the Manhattan Project, a top-secret program to build the bomb first, led by physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer and General Leslie Groves. The project cost $2 billion, employed over 130,000 people, and operated in secret facilities across America in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Scientists enriched uranium-235 in Hanford, Washington. Reactors produced plutonium-239, and in Los Alamos, New Mexico, Oppenheimer designed the bombs. This was a race against time. Fortunately, Germany never came close. But by summer 1945, America had two atomic bombs: Little Boy uranium and Fat Man plutonium. Now they just needed to test them. Trinity, the birth of the nuclear age, on July 16, 1945, at 5:30 a.m. in the New Mexico desert. The world's first atomic bomb exploded. The test, called Trinity, created a fireball brighter than 1,000 suns. A mushroom cloud rose 40,000 feet high, and the ground shook 120 miles away. J. Robert Oppenheimer, watching the blast, said, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The atomic bomb was real. President Truman, at the Potsdam Conference, told Soviet leader Stalin about the new weapon. Stalin already knew Soviet spies had infiltrated the project. The nuclear arms race had begun. The decision: Japan must surrender by summer 1945. Japan was collapsing. American forces had captured Iwo Jima and Okinawa. U.S. bombers had firebombed 67 Japanese cities, killing over 350,000 civilians. A single Tokyo raid killed 100,000 people. But Japan refused to surrender. The military controlled the government. Surrender meant dishonor. American intelligence revealed Japan was preparing for a final apocalyptic battle. Operation Downfall. The planned invasion was set for November 1945. Casualty estimates were horrifying: 250,000 to 1 million American deaths and 5 to 10 million Japanese deaths. Japanese civilians were being trained to fight with bamboo spears and Molotov cocktails. President Truman had four options: continue conventional bombing, invade Japan, demonstrate the bomb on an empty island, or use it on a Japanese city to force immediate surrender. Truman chose the last option: Hiroshima. August 6, 1945, the day the world changed. Hiroshima was a city of 340,000 people. It was chosen because it had suffered little bombing and was a military center. At 8:15 a.m. on August 6th, the B-29 bomber, Enola Gay, piloted by Colonel Paul Tibbets, dropped Little Boy, a 10,000-pound uranium bomb. The bomb exploded 1,800 feet above the city with a force of 15,000 tons of TNT. A blinding flash filled the sky. The temperature at ground zero reached 7,000 degrees Celsius, instantly vaporizing people. Shadows were burned into walls. A massive shockwave flattened buildings for miles. A firestorm consumed the city, and a mushroom cloud rose 40,000 feet. Within seconds, 70,000 to 80,000 people were dead. By year's end, radiation sickness would kill 140,000 survivors. Called it hell on earth, people with melting skin, children crying for water. Rivers filled with corpses, but Japan still didn't surrender Nagasaki. August 9, 1945, the second bomb on August 8th, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan and invaded Manchuria. But Japan's military leaders still refused to surrender on August 9th, just 3 days after Hiroshima, America dropped a second bomb. The target was Kokura, but clouds forced the bomber to divert to Nagasaki at 11:02 a.m. Fat Man exploded with 21,000 tons of force, killing 40,000 instantly. By year's end, 74,000 were dead. Emperor Hirohito finally acted on August 15th. He announced Japan's surrender in a radio address, citing the devastating power of a new and most cruel bomb. World War II was over. The atomic age and the Cold War. The bombings ended the war, but created a new terrifying era. The atomic age, the moral debate began immediately. Was it necessary, or was it a war crime? Supporters said the bomb saved millions who would have died in an invasion. Critics argued Japan was already beaten, and the bombs were meant to intimidate the Soviet Union. The debate continues today, but the bomb changed war forever. The Soviet Union raced to catch up on August 29, 1949. They tested their first atomic bomb. The nuclear arms race had begun by the 1950s. Both superpowers had hydrogen bombs, thousands of times more powerful. The Cold War, a 45-year standoff, was defined by mutually assured destruction. If either side launched nukes, both would be destroyed. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 nearly triggered nuclear war. But the horror of Hiroshima created a nuclear taboo. No nation has used nuclear weapons since 1945. The sheer devastation deterred even the most aggressive leaders. But what if the bombs had never been dropped? What if that taboo never existed? What if America never dropped the atomic bomb on Japan? What if the world never saw the horror of Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Let's rewrite history. What if the bomb was never used? Imagine it's July 1945. The Trinity test succeeds, but President Truman makes a different decision. Scientists like Leo Szilard argue that using the bomb on civilians would be immoral. Truman considers a demonstration on an empty island. But military leaders warn it might fail, or Japan might dismiss it as a trick with no clear alternative. Truman decides to proceed with Operation Downfall, the invasion of Japan. The atomic bombs remain unused, and history takes a far bloodier path. Operation Downfall, the bloodiest invasion in history in our timeline. The bombs prevented the invasion, but in this world it happens. Operation Downfall had two phases. Operation Olympic, November 1945, targeting Kyushu Island, and Operation Coronet. March 1946, targeting the main island near Tokyo. Over 1 million American troops, supported by British and Soviet forces, would invade Japan, prepared for the worst. America ordered 500,000 Purple Heart medals for casualties. Those same medals are still used today because the invasion never happened. Japan was ready. Operation Ketsugo mobilized every citizen. Over 560,000 soldiers defended Kyushu alone. Civilians armed with bamboo spears were trained to fight kamikaze pilots, prepared thousands of suicide attacks the government ordered. The 100 million will die for the emperor. The nightmare begins. Kyushu, November 1945. On November 1st, 1945. The largest invasion in history begins. American forces storm Kyushu's beaches. The Japanese fight with suicidal desperation. Kamikaze planes crash into ships, sinking dozens on land. Every village becomes a fortress. Civilians throw themselves at troops with grenades. The fighting is savage, brutal, unrelenting. Within the first month, 100,000 Americans are dead or wounded. Japanese casualties exceed 1 million by February 1946. Kyushu is secured, but the cost is staggering. 250,000 American soldiers dead and over 2 million Japanese perished, and the war isn't over. The main island invasion is next. The Soviets invade Hokkaido, a divided Japan, while Americans bleed on Kyushu. The Soviet Union makes its move. Soviet forces invade Hokkaido, Japan's northern island facing lighter resistance. The Soviets are brutal, executing officers and installing communist governments. By early 1946, they control Hokkaido and push south. Stalin wants a communist North Japan, just like Korea and Germany. Truman realizes the nightmare. Japan will be split between Soviets and Americans, creating a permanent Cold War flashpoint. Operation Coronet, the final nightmare. March 1946, the invasion of the main island begins. Over 2 million Americans storm beaches near Tokyo. The Japanese defense is even more fanatical. Tokyo becomes a burning battleground. Millions of civilians are caught in the crossfire. Emperor Hirohito finally orders surrender in July 1946, but it's too late. Over 6 million Japanese are dead, including 3 million civilians. American casualties exceed 500,000 dead and 1 million wounded, worse than the Civil War, and the Soviets control northern Japan. The country is divided into North Japan, a Soviet communist state, and South Japan under American occupation. The scars will last generations. The world without the nuclear taboo. The most dangerous consequence in our timeline, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, created a nuclear taboo. The world saw what atomic bombs do to humans and recoiled. But in this timeline, where bombs were never used, that taboo doesn't exist. The bomb remains theoretical during the Korean War. 1950 to 1953, General MacArthur urges using atomic bombs against Chinese forces in our world. Truman refused, haunted by Hiroshima. But in this timeline, Truman authorizes tactical nuclear strikes. 100,000 Chinese soldiers are vaporized. The Soviets respond with nuclear strikes on South Korea. The Korean War becomes a limited nuclear exchange. The precedent is set. Nuclear weapons are just another tool of war. The Cuban Missile Crisis turns hot. The most terrifying moment comes in October 1962 in our world. The crisis ended peacefully because leaders understood nuclear war's apocalyptic consequences they had seen. Hiroshima. But in this timeline, nuclear weapons are normalized. They were used in Korea now in 1962, when the Soviet missiles are discovered in Cuba. President Kennedy and Premier Khrushchev face off. Neither backs down. Kennedy orders airstrikes. Khrushchev retaliates. Tactical nukes are used. The situation spirals within days. Nuclear missiles strike military targets across America and the Soviet Union. Millions die. The world teeters on the brink. A ceasefire is reached, but the damage is done. The nuclear genie is fully out. Vietnam and the nuclear shadow in this timeline. Vietnam sees tactical nuclear weapons. American forces, frustrated by guerrilla warfare, use small nukes to destroy Viet Cong tunnels. The environmental and human cost is catastrophic. But the precedent holds. By the 1980s, over a dozen nations have nukes, and several have used them. India and Pakistan exchanged nuclear strikes in 1984 over Kashmir. Israel nukes an Egyptian base in 1973. The world is far more unstable, violent, and closer to annihilation, the modern world. A darker place if the bomb had never been dropped on Hiroshima. The world today would be a nightmare. The nuclear taboo that kept humanity safe for 80 years never forms. Instead, nukes are normalized. Millions die in World War II. Korea, Vietnam, and countless conflicts, Japan is divided like Korea, a communist North and democratic South locked in Cold War. The global nuclear death toll reaches tens of millions. Radiation and environmental devastation plague entire regions. The world is more militarized, paranoid, and accustomed to mass death. Would it have been better or worse? The grim answer, this alternate timeline, is objectively worse. The decision to drop the bombs killed 200,000 people. But it showed the world nuclear war's true horror. Without Hiroshima, the world would have learned through repeated nuclear wars the death toll would dwarf the original 200,000. By the 20th century's end, tens of millions would die in nuclear conflicts. The environment would be poisoned, and human extinction would be far more likely. Conclusion: the terrible necessity. The atomic bombings killed over 200,000 people, mostly civilians. It was a tragedy that can never be fully justified. But it ended the deadliest war in history and created a taboo that has prevented nuclear war for 80 years. If those bombs had never been dropped, the invasion would have killed millions. The nuclear taboo would never form, and nukes would be used repeatedly throughout the Cold War. The death toll would be incomprehensibly higher. President Truman's decision was one of the most terrible in history. But in 1945, with Japan refusing to surrender, it may have been the least terrible option. The world we live in exists. Partly because Hiroshima and Nagasaki showed us the consequences. One decision, 2 bombs, 200,000 lives lost. But perhaps billions saved. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more thought-provoking, alternate history scenarios exploring the moments that shaped our world.